When the soul is ready, change comes. Buddhist wisdom for life. In the quiet moments between one stage of life and the next, something profound stirs within us. It is not a voice, nor a command, but a subtle vibration, the soul's whisper that says, "It's time." This is the essence of spiritual transformation. It cannot be forced, planned, or rushed. It arrives only when the soul is ready. Buddhism teaches that everything unfolds according to the inner readiness of our consciousness, not the demands of our ego. Change is not an external event. It is an awakening, a gradual opening of the heart and mind toward truth. The Buddha taught that all things arise and pass away. Nothing remains static, yet we often resist this natural flow because change threatens our illusions of control. We hold on to jobs, relationships, identities, and habits, fearing what will happen if we let go. But when the soul ripens through experience, suffering, and contemplation, a shift begins. The old starts to fall away, not as a punishment, but as a sacred clearing to make space for what must come next. True change, in the Buddhist sense, does not begin in the outer world. It begins with awareness. It is the moment you realize that your suffering has meaning, that your challenges are your teachers, and that your attachments are the chains preventing liberation. As the Dhammapada says, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can, and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path." When your soul is ready, life begins to rearrange itself in alignment with your deeper purpose. Friends may drift away, familiar comforts may dissolve, and unexpected opportunities may arise. This can feel chaotic, even painful, but it is the sacred process of transformation. Just as the lotus must rise from the mud to bloom, the awakened soul must pass through darkness to reach light. In this journey through Buddhist wisdom, we will explore 5 deep truths about change, readiness, and the awakening of the soul. Each truth reveals how life's timing aligns perfectly with your spiritual growth, and how surrendering to this flow leads to peace and freedom. The ripening of the soul. Why change cannot be forced. Buddhism reminds us that everything in existence follows a natural rhythm, a universal law of unfolding called Dhamma. Just as a seed cannot bloom before its time, the soul cannot awaken until it has absorbed all the lessons contained in its current stage. This principle of spiritual ripening explains why some experiences repeat themselves, why certain patterns persist, and why transformation sometimes takes years of inner struggle before one moment of clarity. When the Buddha attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, it was not because he discovered a new truth. It was because he was ready to perceive what had always been there. His years of searching, fasting, and meditating were not wasted. They were the ripening of his consciousness. Likewise, every difficulty we face prepares the ground of our being for insight. We cannot force wisdom any more than we can command a flower to bloom. We can only nurture the soil, water the roots, and wait for the natural awakening that comes in its own time. Many people live in resistance to this law. They demand progress, chase results, and pressure themselves to become enlightened overnight. But this impatience belongs to the ego, not the soul. The ego thrives on control. The soul thrives on surrender. True change happens in silence, often unnoticed. You wake up one morning and realize the things that once triggered you no longer do. You notice peace where there used to be turmoil. That is how the soul shows it is ready. When you try to force transformation, you move against the current of life. The Buddha likened this to rowing upstream against the flow of the river. The effort exhausts you, and even if you make temporary progress, you eventually drift back to where you began. But when you surrender to timing, trusting that every season has its purpose, you float naturally toward wisdom and understanding. The readiness of the soul often comes after periods of pain and confusion. Suffering in Buddhism is not punishment. It is purification. It removes illusions and attachments that block awareness. Each heartbreak, each disappointment, each failure is a chiseling of the ego that makes room for the truth. The soul ripens not through comfort, but through the friction of life. When it has learned all it can from one stage, the universe gently, or sometimes abruptly, moves it forward. This is why the Buddha said, "No one can escape the law of cause and effect." Your readiness for change is the effect of many hidden causes: your thoughts, your actions, your past experiences, your karmic patterns. Every meditation, every act of kindness, every moment of awareness adds light to your consciousness. When that light becomes strong enough, it burns away the old forms that no longer serve your evolution. Imagine a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. The change is inevitable, but the timing is sacred. If someone tried to open the cocoon too early, the butterfly would never develop the strength to fly. The same is true for the soul. Each struggle you face builds inner wings. Each delay, each unanswered prayer, each moment of uncertainty is the universe protecting you until you are strong enough to receive what you have asked for. When you finally understand this, patience becomes peace. You stop questioning why things haven't happened yet and start trusting that they are unfolding perfectly. You begin to see delays not as denials, but as divine preparation. The heart softens, the mind quiets, and your energy aligns with the rhythm of the universe. Then, without effort, what is meant for you begins to arrive. The lesson is clear. Do not rush your becoming. Do not compare your timing with others. Everyone blooms in their own season. The only thing you must do is remain faithful to your path, meditate, act with compassion, and trust the silence between seasons. Because when your soul is ready, change will come like dawn, inevitable, radiant, and full of peace. If this message resonates with your heart, and you want to keep walking this path of awakening and Buddhist wisdom, remember to subscribe to the channel for more teachings that guide your soul toward peace and understanding. The silent preparation, how life shapes you for the moment of awakening. Before any visible transformation takes place, there is always an invisible preparation. This is one of the deepest insights in Buddhist wisdom. Change happens inwardly long before it is seen outwardly. The universe does not waste a single experience. Every delay, every challenge, every person who enters and leaves your life is part of this hidden orchestration. While the mind grows impatient, the soul is being quietly shaped, refined, and made ready. This silent work of preparation is what allows the true awakening to occur when the time arrives. The Buddha often spoke of the middle way, not too much, not too little, not rushing ahead, not clinging behind. The middle way is not just a moral path, it is the natural rhythm of the cosmos itself. Everything unfolds according to this sacred balance. You may feel stuck, stagnant, or lost, but in reality, something essential is happening beneath the surface. Like a tree whose roots grow deeper during the stillness of winter, your soul is anchoring itself in silence, gathering the wisdom and strength that will one day sustain your flowering. When we are not yet ready, life will not open the next door. It is not because the universe is cruel, but because compassion itself prevents premature revelation. If you were given your destiny before you had the awareness to handle it, it would destroy you rather than liberate you. And so, life hides certain gifts until your consciousness matures enough to use them with humility. The delay, therefore, is not rejection, it is mercy. It is the universe saying, "Wait, you are still being refined." Consider the story of Siddhartha before he became the Buddha. He had every comfort imaginable, wealth, family, servants, pleasure, and yet his soul remained restless. The palace could not satisfy the hunger within. He left behind all he had known and wandered into the unknown. Those years of wandering, hunger, and failure were not wasted years. They were the furnace that melted the illusions of the self. Only through that emptiness did enlightenment find him. The lesson is timeless. You are not being punished when you lose what is familiar. You are being stripped of illusion to make space for truth. Many people pray for transformation, but reject the discomfort that accompanies it. They want awakening without detachment, peace without silence, and wisdom without solitude. But Buddhist teachings remind us that growth requires the dissolution of old forms. The person you think you are must die, so the person you truly are can be born. This death of identity can be painful. You lose interest in things that once thrilled you. Certain friendships fade. Ambitions that once defined you begin to feel empty. You may feel as though you are unraveling, but this unraveling is sacred. It is the soul shedding what it no longer needs. In this silent preparation, life will test your attachments. It will place you in situations where you must choose between your comfort and your truth. You might be forced to stand alone, to let go of approval, to confront fear. Each test is an initiation. When you choose truth over illusion, even in small moments, you strengthen your inner alignment with the path. Each act of courage polishes the mirror of your consciousness, allowing you to see reality more clearly. This is why change cannot come before readiness. The clarity to recognize truth must exist before transformation can occur. The Buddha compared the human mind to a garden. Whatever you plant, there grows. If you plant seeds of fear, anger, and resistance, that is what your reality will mirror. If you plant awareness, compassion, and mindfulness, your reality becomes a reflection of peace. But soil must be prepared before planting. In the same way, life tills the soil of your heart through hardship, loss, and silence. These experiences loosen the hardened ground of ego so that the seeds of wisdom can take root. You may not understand this process while you are in it, but when you look back, you will see that everything was preparation. There are moments in life when everything seems to fall apart at once. The plans you made collapse, the people you relied on disappear, and your sense of direction vanishes. This is often the final stage before awakening, the collapse of false foundations. The ego interprets it as chaos, but the soul recognizes it as cleansing. The walls must fall before the light can enter. The Buddhists call this sunyata, the state of emptiness that precedes true understanding. It is the fertile void, the womb of creation. Out of this emptiness, something new can finally emerge. The readiness for change often comes disguised as exhaustion. You become tired of your own patterns, your own fears, your own excuses. This fatigue is sacred. It is the soul's way of saying, no more illusions. You begin to crave truth more than comfort, peace more than validation. That shift in desire marks the turning point. Life responds to the sincerity of your heart. When you genuinely long for awakening, the universe begins to reorganize itself around that intention. People, opportunities, and insights appear, guiding you step by step. But even then, the process is not linear. There are days of great clarity, followed by days of confusion. One moment you feel enlightened, the next you feel lost. This fluctuation is natural because transformation moves in spirals, not straight lines. Each cycle brings you deeper, revisiting old wounds from a higher level of understanding. You are not backsliding, you are refining. Just as the waves return to the shore again and again, each return shapes the coastline of your being more precisely. Patience becomes your greatest teacher in this stage. The Buddha said, patience is the highest asceticism. It is the ability to remain still while everything in you wants to run, to trust when the path is hidden, to surrender when nothing makes sense. The practice of mindfulness anchors you through this uncertainty. Each breath reminds you that you are here now, and that this moment too is part of your unfolding. When you learn to find peace in not knowing, you begin to touch the essence of enlightenment. In the silence of preparation, life is always whispering guidance. Sometimes it speaks through intuition, other times through signs, dreams, or synchronicities. The more still you become, the more clearly you hear. Meditation is not about escaping reality. It is about seeing it without distortion. When you sit in silence, your inner noise begins to fade, and life's subtle orchestration becomes visible. You start noticing patterns, connections, and meanings that were previously hidden. What once seemed random now reveals itself as purposeful. This awareness deepens your trust in the process. Trust is the foundation of readiness. You cannot force what you do not trust. When you believe that the universe is benevolent, even your pain becomes sacred. You begin to see every delay as protection, every ending as preparation, every emptiness as space for something greater. This trust frees you from anxiety. You no longer chase outcomes. You align with the present. You no longer beg for signs. You recognize that everything is already a sign. The very fact that you are breathing, growing, and reflecting means the process is working. In this sacred waiting, your soul learns stillness. And stillness in Buddhism is not the absence of movement. It is perfect harmony with the flow of all things. The Buddha reached enlightenment not by doing more, but by stopping his endless search. When he stopped striving, truth revealed itself. Likewise, when you stop pushing and start allowing, life begins to flow effortlessly. You realize that everything you have been seeking has been seeking you, but it could not find you until you became still enough to receive it. The moment of awakening often comes quietly. There is no grand revelation, no fireworks of enlightenment. It is subtle, like dawn breaking through the mist. You notice peace where there used to be tension. You notice gratitude replacing resentment. You no longer resist what is. This simplicity is the mark of true spiritual maturity. It is the recognition that everything is exactly as it should be. That realization alone dissolves years of suffering. When you reach this awareness, you begin to live from the inside out. You stop waiting for external circumstances to give you permission to be happy. You realize that happiness is not a condition. It is a state of presence. You can sit in silence with nothing and feel complete. This inner sufficiency is freedom. The Buddha called it nibbana, the extinguishing of craving, the end of mental agitation. In that state, change is no longer something you chase. It becomes the natural expression of your alignment with life. Every person walking this earth is being prepared for something sacred. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are in the exact stage you need to be in. When you look at a seed, you cannot see the flower it will become, but the potential is already there. Your soul holds the same hidden potential. Each meditation, each act of kindness, each moment of awareness nourishes it. And when the time comes, the flower will bloom without effort, because blooming is its nature. Do not mistake the silence for stagnation. Stillness is sacred activity. The universe is working in ways you cannot see. When the right alignment occurs between your heart, your intention, and divine timing, change will happen naturally, like a river finding the sea. You will not have to chase it. It will come to you, and you will recognize it instantly because it will feel like home. Until then, keep walking gently. Observe your inner world with compassion. Practice patience, mindfulness, and gratitude. Trust that your current season is preparing you for your next awakening. The soul does not move according to human calendars. It moves according to divine wisdom. And when it is ready, everything you have been waiting for will arrive with the quiet certainty of sunrise. If this reflection speaks to your spirit and you wish to continue deepening your understanding of Buddhist wisdom, subscribe to the channel so that these teachings can keep guiding your journey toward peace, awareness, and the unfolding of your true self. The moment of alignment, when inner readiness meets outer change. There comes a sacred intersection in life where inner readiness meets outer opportunity. It is the invisible alignment between the soul and the universe, where all that you have endured, all that you have learned, and all that you have become converge into a single point of transformation. This is not a coincidence. It is divine timing in motion. In Buddhism, this harmony between the inner and outer world is known as dependent origination, the principle that all phenomena arise in perfect interconnection. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything is part of the same living network of causes and conditions. When your consciousness ripens, the external world reflects it effortlessly. Before this alignment, life may feel confusing. You meditate, you study, you seek, but nothing seems to change. You may even feel as if your spiritual practice is in vain. But the truth is that the soul's growth often happens in silence, beneath the surface of awareness. Just as the dawn does not announce its arrival, but gently transforms darkness into light, your readiness grows gradually until one day, everything shifts without warning. The right teacher appears, a door opens, a path reveals itself, and you know without doubt that this is the moment you were waiting for. Buddhist teachings emphasize that this alignment is not the result of chance. It is the fruit of karma, the natural law of cause and effect. Every thought, every intention, every act of mindfulness contributes to your unfolding. The energy you cultivate within inevitably shapes the experiences that come to you. When your inner frequency changes, the outer world reorganizes to match it. That is why, when you purify your mind and heart, certain things naturally fall away. The people, habits, or environments that once resonated with your former self no longer align with your vibration. It may feel like loss, but in truth, it is space being cleared for the next chapter. At the moment of alignment, life feels lighter. You stop pushing, you stop chasing. You realize that everything you were trying to make happen begins happening on its own. What once required force now flows with grace. This is not because the external world suddenly became easier. It is because your resistance dissolved. You are no longer swimming against the current. You have become the current. The Buddha compared this state to a lotus blooming naturally when the sun rises. It does not strive to open. It opens because the light has come. However, to reach this alignment, the soul must pass through surrender. Surrender is often misunderstood as passivity or weakness. In truth, it is the highest form of strength. To surrender is to trust that life's intelligence knows better than your plans. It is to allow things to unfold without trying to control their pace. When you stop resisting what is, your energy harmonizes with reality itself. In that harmony, the right conditions appear, not because you demanded them, but because you became aligned with their essence. In Buddhist philosophy, the law of impermanence, anicca, plays a central role in this understanding. Everything changes, everything flows, and nothing stays fixed. When you grasp this truth, you stop clinging to temporary forms. You begin to flow with change instead of fearing it. This flow is what creates alignment. It's not about forcing the future. It's about letting go of what blocks it. The moment you stop trying to control outcomes, you open yourself to possibilities far greater than anything the mind could have imagined. Sometimes alignment happens through what appears to be chaos. You may lose your job, a relationship might end, or your plans might collapse overnight. The ego interprets this as failure, but the awakened soul sees it as rearrangement. The universe is making room for the new by dismantling the old. Just as a storm clears the air and nourishes the earth, upheaval in your life often precedes transformation. Pain, in this sense, becomes sacred. It is the friction through which clarity emerges. The Buddha said, "From craving arises sorrow, from craving arises fear. He who is free from craving knows neither sorrow nor fear." Then, when craving and resistance dissolve, alignment naturally occurs. During this phase, your intuition sharpens. You start noticing subtle signs. The right words come at the right time. You meet someone who shares the message you needed to hear. Opportunities align in improbable ways. These are not coincidences. They are reflections of your internal vibration. The more peaceful and clear your energy becomes, the more synchronized your life appears. This is synchronicity, the language through which the universe communicates alignment. The key is awareness, to stay present enough to recognize these signs and follow them with faith. Yet even at the moment of alignment, the mind will sometimes doubt. It will whisper, "Are you sure this is the right path?" This doubt is natural. It is the last echo of fear before surrender fully takes hold. Buddhism teaches that doubt arises when attachment still lingers, attachment to control, to certainty, to egoic validation. The practice at this stage is to stay grounded in mindfulness. Return to your breath. Remember the countless times life has guided you before. Trust that the same wisdom is at work now. Every event, even confusion, is part of the alignment process. The greatest obstacle to alignment is impatience. We live in a world that glorifies speed and instant results, but the soul has its own tempo. You cannot rush spiritual growth any more than you can rush the seasons. When you learn to befriend time, to see waiting not as wasted energy, but as sacred gestation, peace replaces anxiety. Patience is not the absence of desire, it is the presence of trust. It says, "I do not need to know when or how, I know that it will come when the time is right." And the paradox is that the very moment you release the need for control, things begin to move swiftly, almost effortlessly. This is the middle path in practice, not pushing, not stagnating, just moving in harmony. The mind, however, will keep tempting you with illusions of control. It will say, "You must act now, or you'll lose your chance." But the Buddha's wisdom teaches otherwise. You cannot lose what is truly meant for you. What belongs to your soul cannot pass you by, because its roots are already intertwined with your destiny. Your only task is to stay awake, receptive, and aligned. As the moment of alignment deepens, something subtle happens inside. Fear transforms into peace. This is the hallmark of readiness. You no longer crave outcomes because you trust the unfolding. You begin to see that there is no separation between you and life. You are life expressing itself. The river does not fear where it flows, because it knows it will always reach the ocean. In the same way, the awakened heart knows that every experience, joy, loss, silence, movement, is guiding it toward wholeness. The Buddha described enlightenment as seeing things as they truly are. In alignment, this vision becomes your daily experience. You look at others and see yourself in them. You perceive the interdependence of all beings. Compassion arises naturally, not as a moral effort, but as the spontaneous recognition of unity. You realize that helping another is helping yourself, because there is no real separation. This is the essence of karuna, the boundless compassion that flows from awakened awareness. Life after alignment feels different. You may still face challenges, but your relationship with them changes. Instead of reacting with fear, you respond with wisdom. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask, "What is this teaching me?" This shift in perception transforms suffering into insight. Problems become teachers, pain becomes purification, and every ending becomes a doorway. The external world may appear the same, but you experience it from a higher vibration. This is what Buddhists mean when they speak of nirvana within samsara, liberation within the ordinary. In this new awareness, gratitude becomes your natural state. You begin to thank even the difficulties because you see how they shaped your soul. You realize that without the delays, you would not have developed patience. Without the heartbreaks, you would not have understood love. Without the solitude, you would not have discovered inner strength. Everything that once seemed meaningless now fits into the perfect tapestry of your evolution. This realization brings profound peace, a peace that no external success can give or take away. And yet, alignment does not mean the end of growth. The soul continues evolving endlessly, each stage preparing for the next. The difference is that now you trust the process. You no longer resist change because you see that change is the nature of existence. You move through life with open hands rather than clenched fists. You become like bamboo, flexible, rooted, and unbreakable. Whatever the wind of circumstance brings, you bend but do not break. At this stage, your presence itself becomes transformative. Others feel peace around you without knowing why. This is the silent power of alignment, the radiance of a being who no longer struggles against life. The Buddha did not perform miracles through effort. His presence was the miracle. In the same way, when your inner state harmonizes with truth, your mere being becomes a source of healing to others. You become a living example of serenity amidst chaos, a reminder that peace is possible. To live in alignment is to live in trust. It means waking each morning without fear of what will come, because you know that whatever arises is part of your awakening. It means forgiving quickly, letting go easily, and loving fully. It means understanding that the purpose of life is not to control it, but to participate in its sacred dance with awareness and compassion. You become both the dancer and the dance, the wave and the ocean, the observer and the observed. In that realization, all dualities dissolve, and only presence remains. The readiness of the soul, then, is not something you achieve, it is something you remember. It is the rediscovery of your natural state, calm, aware, and free. When you return to this state, the universe responds instantly, because it has been waiting for you to remember who you are. The outer world becomes a reflection of your inner clarity. Relationships harmonize, opportunities appear, and even challenges lose their sting. You move through life like a lotus on water, untouched by the mud, rooted in the eternal. If your path feels uncertain right now, know this: you are being prepared for your own moment of alignment. Every delay, every confusion, every detour is guiding you there. Trust that the timing of your life is perfect, even if your mind cannot yet see the pattern. Keep walking the path with mindfulness, compassion, and faith. When the soul is ready, change will not need to be forced. It will flow through you like breath, effortless and true. If this reflection has brought peace or insight to your journey, I invite you to subscribe to the channel so that we may continue exploring together the deep wisdom of Buddhism and the timeless truth that all change begins within. The flow of surrender, letting go as the gateway to transformation. There is a point in every seeker's journey where understanding is no longer enough. You have read the teachings, repeated the mantras, and contemplated the truths, yet something within you remains unsettled. This is because wisdom cannot be fully realized through intellect alone. It must descend from the mind into the heart. It must be lived, breathed, and embodied. And the only bridge between knowledge and awakening is surrender. In Buddhism, surrender is not defeat. It is the deepest trust in the natural order of existence. It is the moment when you release the illusion that you must control life and instead allow life to move through you freely, as it always intended. To surrender is to stop resisting what is. Resistance is the subtle force that binds us to suffering. The Buddha described suffering not as the pain of life itself, but as the clinging to how we think life should be. We suffer because we demand permanence from what is impermanent. We suffer because we cling to control in a universe governed by flow. To surrender, therefore, is to release this grasping and to align with the truth that everything is transient, everything is moving, everything is alive with impermanence. When you begin to surrender, it may feel like losing ground. The ego resists because surrender threatens its existence. The ego's entire structure is built on separation, the illusion that there is a me who must manage, protect, and manipulate reality. But surrender dissolves this illusion. It invites you to step into the current of life without resistance, to trust that this current will carry you exactly where you need to go. The Buddha used the metaphor of the river often, saying that life itself is a river, flowing, changing, boundless, and the one who tries to stand still in it will be swept away by struggle, while the one who learns to float is carried effortlessly to peace. In practice, surrender begins with small moments. It begins when you let go of trying to fix others, when you stop forcing outcomes, when you choose to respond with awareness instead of reaction. Each act of release is an act of awakening. Every time you let go of something unnecessary, you become lighter, freer, more attuned to the rhythm of existence. And soon you realize that surrender is not a single act. It is a way of being. It is the ongoing recognition that you are not the doer, but the witness, the consciousness through which life expresses itself. One of the great paradoxes of Buddhist philosophy is that the more you let go, the more power you discover. This is not the power of domination, but the power of harmony, the ability to move through the world without being disturbed by its turbulence. The person who has surrendered does not lose control. They gain peace. They no longer fight the inevitable or cling to the fleeting. They become like the ocean that welcomes every wave without resistance. Whether calm or stormy, it remains vast, deep, and undisturbed. Surrender requires courage. It means giving up the comfort of certainty and stepping into the mystery of the present. It means accepting that you do not know, and yet trusting that this not knowing is holy. The Buddha said, "Just as a candle cannot burn without fire, men cannot live without a spiritual life." Itu. To live spiritually is to live in surrender, to allow the flame of awareness to burn away the illusions of control. Every time you release your grip on life, you make room for grace. Many people mistake surrender for passivity, but it is the opposite. True surrender is active awareness. It is the choice to stay open, to listen deeply, to flow with reality as it unfolds. It does not mean you stop acting. It means you act without attachment to results. You do your best, then let go. This is the essence of karma yoga in Buddhist and Vedic thought. Action without craving for reward. When you move from this place, your actions are pure, effortless, and aligned with the greater harmony. The moment you stop clinging, clarity arises. Attachment clouds perception. Surrender clears it. When you let go of the need to control, you begin to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. The mind quiets, and in that silence, wisdom emerges naturally. You start recognizing that everything, even the painful, serves your awakening. What once appeared as misfortune now reveals itself as instruction. Every challenge becomes a lesson in acceptance. Every loss a teacher of detachment. Every delay an act of mercy. The Buddha's life is itself a testament to the power of surrender. He walked away from luxury, from his family, from everything society told him he needed. He did not know what he would find. He only knew he must follow truth wherever it led. That trust, that willingness to let go of the known for the sake of the real, is the foundation of enlightenment. And yet, even the Buddha's enlightenment was not something he achieved through effort. It came when effort ceased, when he finally sat beneath the Bodhi tree and surrendered completely, vowing not to move until truth revealed itself. It was in that perfect stillness, in that complete letting go, that illumination dawned. Surrender also means embracing imperfection. The ego seeks perfection as a means to secure worth, but the soul knows that perfection lies in wholeness, not flawlessness. You are not meant to erase your humanity, but to see through it, to understand that your mistakes, your wounds, and your fears are part of the unfolding. In Buddhism, compassion begins with self-acceptance. You cannot awaken through self-rejection. To surrender is to forgive yourself for being in process, to bow to the journey rather than demand that it conform to your expectations. When you live in surrender, even your pain becomes sacred. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin to ask, "What is this showing me?" This shift transforms suffering into insight. You no longer run from discomfort. You meet it with awareness. In this meeting, the energy of resistance dissolves and healing begins. The pain was never the problem. The resistance was. The moment you allow pain to be, it begins to lose its grip. The Buddha called this the end of dukkha, the cessation of suffering that comes when craving and aversion end. Surrender also deepens your connection with the present moment. You begin to see that the present is not just another point in time. It is the only place where life truly exists. When you stop trying to rewrite the past or manipulate the future, you find peace here and now. You taste the stillness beneath the chaos, the silence beneath the noise. That stillness is your true nature. It has always been there, waiting for your attention to return home. As you continue to surrender, your relationship with desire transforms. Desire itself is not the enemy. It is attachment to desire that causes suffering. The Buddha did not say we must live without dreams or goals. He said we must pursue them without clinging. When your happiness no longer depends on external outcomes, you discover freedom. You can enjoy life's pleasures without being enslaved by them, appreciate beauty without trying to possess it, and love without fear of loss. Love, in its purest form, is surrender. The willingness to let another be as they are without trying to mold them into your image of who they should be. Eventually, surrender becomes your natural response to life. You no longer need to force it. You breathe and it happens. You trust and peace follows. You realize that life has always known the way. You were the one resisting it. You begin to see patterns, how even your detours led you here, how every delay carried wisdom, how every fall was a preparation for flight. Gratitude replaces control. You thank life not only for the blessings, but for the challenges that refined you. This trust creates an inner spaciousness that allows everything to flow. People may come and go, plans may rise and fall, seasons may change, yet you remain anchored in the quiet awareness that all is well. You no longer live by fear, you live by faith, not the faith of belief, but the faith of direct knowing. You know that everything unfolds according to a greater rhythm, and that rhythm cannot fail. When surrender deepens to its fullest, it becomes indistinguishable from enlightenment. There is no longer you surrendering, there is only surrender itself. The boundary between self and life disappears. You are not surrendering to life, you are life surrendering to itself. This is the highest state of awakening, where peace is not something you experience, but something you are. The river and the ocean are one. And yet, even this realization does not make you leave the world. It makes you more present in it. You begin to live from compassion, not obligation. You speak with gentleness, not fear. You act with wisdom, not haste. You become a vessel through which life serves life. Every breath becomes a prayer of gratitude. Every act becomes a meditation. You no longer seek enlightenment as a goal. It simply shines through you as your natural state. When the soul surrenders, the universe responds with grace. Life begins to flow effortlessly, carrying you into situations, connections, and experiences that align perfectly with your evolution. The more you trust, the more synchronicity appears. The more you let go, the lighter you feel. You move through life like a breeze, soft, invisible, yet powerful enough to shape the world. To live in surrender is to live in harmony with the Dharma, the natural law that governs all existence. You become attuned to its rhythm, aware of its flow, receptive to its wisdom. The mind no longer argues with life. It bows to it. This bowing is not submission, but reverence, the recognition that life itself is sacred. Every sunrise, every storm, every silence is an expression of the infinite teaching. The enlightened see this clearly, the awakened live it daily. And so, surrender becomes the final teacher, the silent master that guides you beyond effort, beyond seeking, beyond fear. It leads you back to the essence of who you have always been: boundless awareness, infinite compassion, unshakable peace. If this reflection resonates with the depth of your being, and you wish to continue journeying through these timeless truths of Buddhist wisdom, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Let us continue to walk together through the path of surrender, awakening, and peace, remembering that when the soul is ready, change flows naturally like water returning to the sea. Awakening is a return, becoming what you already are. Awakening is often imagined as a dramatic moment of revelation, a lightning strike of realization that forever changes one's life. But in truth, awakening is not an event, it is a return. It is not about becoming something new, it is about remembering what you have always been beneath the layers of illusion. Buddhism teaches that the essence of every being is already pure, luminous, and free. What keeps us from experiencing this truth is not the lack of enlightenment, but the presence of ignorance, the clouds of attachment, fear, and desire that obscure the sky of awareness. The journey, then, is not one of attainment but of removal. It is the slow, tender unraveling of everything false, so that what is real may shine unobstructed. This is why the Buddha did not speak of gaining enlightenment but of awakening to it. The very word Buddha means the awakened one. It suggests that all beings are already asleep within the dream of separateness, and awakening is the simple act of opening the eyes of consciousness. In the same way that the sun does not need to be created each morning, it merely needs the clouds to part. Your true self does not need to be constructed, it only needs to be revealed. Every meditation, every act of compassion, every moment of surrender clears the fog that veils your inner light. To awaken is to see that you were never apart from truth, only distracted from it. You begin to realize that everything you once sought outside, peace, love, meaning, purpose, has always been within. The external world can mirror these qualities, but cannot sustain them, for all external forms are impermanent. The peace that arises from awakening is not dependent on conditions, it is the natural stillness of being. The love that flows from awakening is not limited to people or things. It is the recognition of oneness with all life. The joy of awakening is not the thrill of gain, but the serenity of understanding that nothing was ever missing. But this realization rarely arrives all at once. It unfolds gradually, through countless moments of insight, humility, and inner death. The false self, the collection of stories, fears, and identifications we call me, dissolves layer by layer. Each time you question your thoughts, observe your emotions, or let go of attachment, you loosen the grip of illusion. This is why the Buddha taught mindfulness as the path to liberation. Awareness itself is transformative. When you look deeply into your anger, your jealousy, your craving, you begin to see their impermanence. You realize they arise and pass away like waves on the ocean of consciousness. In that realization, you are no longer bound by them. You are the ocean, not the wave. Awakening also reveals the truth of interconnection. The idea of a separate self begins to crumble. You see that your joy and another's joy are intertwined, that your pain and another's pain are not separate. Compassion blossoms naturally from this understanding because harming another becomes the same as harming yourself. The boundaries between me and you blur, and love expands beyond personal preference. This universal love is not sentimental. It is the deep awareness that everything belongs. The Buddha called this metta, loving kindness, the radiance of an awakened heart. As this awareness deepens, even the distinction between the sacred and the ordinary begins to fade. You no longer think of enlightenment as a distant mountain to climb, but as the ground beneath your feet. Washing dishes, speaking to a friend, listening to the wind, all become acts of meditation. There is no longer a separation between practice and life, between spirituality and daily existence. You realize that every moment is an invitation to wake up, to bring awareness into whatever is happening now. When walking, you are fully walking. When eating, you are fully eating. When silent, you are fully silent. This simplicity is profound. It turns the ordinary into the extraordinary because you are finally present to it. The awakened state is not a perpetual bliss detached from the world. It is an intimacy with life in all its forms. The Buddha still experienced pain, hunger, and loss after enlightenment, but he no longer suffered in the same way. Suffering arises from resistance, and resistance dissolves in awareness. When you stop resisting what is, even pain becomes bearable because it is no longer interpreted as an enemy. You see it as part of the tapestry of existence. You can feel sadness without drowning in it, feel joy without clinging to it, and face death without fear. This equanimity is the hallmark of awakening, a mind at peace amidst the changing tides of life. To awaken is also to see the play of cause and effect with perfect clarity. You understand that everything you experience is the natural outcome of conditions that came before. This understanding frees you from blame and judgment. You no longer hate those who hurt you because you see that their actions arise from their own ignorance and suffering. You no longer curse your past because you realize it was the soil from which your awareness bloomed. The heart softens, forgiveness flows, and life becomes less about fixing and more about seeing. Seeing clearly is the greatest healing of all. The awakened person does not withdraw from life, but engages it more deeply. Because they are no longer motivated by fear or greed, their actions become pure expressions of compassion. They serve without expectation, speak without manipulation, and love without possession. Their presence itself becomes a teaching. Even their silence transmits peace. The Buddha did not need to convince anyone of his truth. He embodied it. Those who came near him felt it. In the same way, when you awaken, you radiate a quiet power that influences others without effort. People may not understand it, but they feel safer, calmer, and more present around you. This is the natural consequence of inner harmony. It harmonizes the world around it. However, even after glimpsing awakening, the mind will try to reclaim its territory. Old habits return, old fears resurface. This is natural. Enlightenment is not a static state, but a continuous remembering. The mind forgets, awareness remembers. The practice never ends because life never stops unfolding. The key is not to become discouraged when you fall back into illusion, but to see even that as part of awakening. Each time you return to awareness, your understanding deepens. Each time you face darkness with light, the illusion loses strength. Gradually, awareness becomes your home rather than your visitor. One of the most powerful signs of awakening is humility. The more you awaken, the less you feel the need to proclaim it. The awakened heart bows before all beings, knowing that each is walking their own sacred path to realization. You no longer look down on those who sleep, for you see that you too were once asleep, and that awakening itself is not a personal achievement, but a grace of existence. You stop preaching and start listening. You stop trying to convert others and start embodying truth so fully that it speaks through your presence. Humility becomes your natural fragrance, just as fragrance is natural to a flower. In this humility, gratitude blooms. You feel grateful for everything, for the teachers who guided you, for the friends who challenged you, for the obstacles that purified you. Gratitude becomes a constant prayer in the heart. a silent thank you to life for its infinite patience. You realize that life has never been against you. It has always been guiding you toward this awakening. Every heartbreak, every delay, every disappointment was the hand of the universe shaping your soul. And now, looking back, you can only bow. The final stage of awakening is integration. It is not enough to see the truth. You must live it. Awareness must descend from the meditation cushion into your relationships, your work, your choices. It must express itself in how you treat others, how you care for the earth, how you speak and listen. True enlightenment is not escape, but embodiment, the merging of wisdom and compassion in everyday life. When awareness infuses every action, even the smallest gesture becomes sacred. Offering a smile, washing a bowl, helping a stranger. These are the expressions of enlightenment in motion. Living in awakening does not mean you are free from the world. It means the world is free within you. You no longer cling to outcomes, yet you give your full presence to whatever you do. You no longer avoid suffering, yet you do not add resistance to it. You live simply, love deeply, and trust completely. You know that everything changes, and you are at peace with that change. You become like the sky, vast, open, and unaffected by the clouds that pass through it. There will still be moments of forgetting, moments when the noise of the mind returns. But now you know that you are not the noise. You are the silence that listens. You no longer chase enlightenment because you have realized that it was never separate from you. Every breath, every sound, every heartbeat is the sound of truth humming through existence. To awaken is to hear that music again after a long silence. And when you live from this place, life itself becomes your teacher. The breeze becomes scripture, the stars become guidance. Every encounter becomes an initiation. You no longer need to seek truth in distant temples or ancient texts, because you recognize that the entire universe is the temple and every moment is sacred. You begin to live in continuous prayer, not the prayer of asking, but the prayer of being. Each step, each breath, each smile is a gesture of reverence to existence. In this awareness, even death loses its power. You see that birth and death are simply movements of form within the eternal field of consciousness. You understand that nothing truly ends. Energy only changes shape. Fear dissolves, replaced by wonder. The same life that moves through your breath moves through the stars, the trees, the oceans. You are part of this vast unfolding, inseparable from it. When you realize this, you stop clinging to life as possession and start embracing it as participation. Life is not something happening to you, it is something happening through you. The greatest gift of awakening is freedom, not freedom from life, but freedom in life. You become free to love without fear, to give without exhaustion, to live without anxiety. You become free to be fully human and fully divine at once. This is the paradox the awakened ones have always known, that there is no contradiction between the finite and the infinite, between the mundane and the sacred. Everything belongs. Everything is God or emptiness or Buddha nature, different names for the same ineffable truth. When the soul is ready, change comes not as thunder, but as stillness. You do not suddenly become someone else. You simply stop pretending to be what you are not. You return to yourself, to that place of quiet awareness that has always been watching, waiting, loving. The journey ends where it began, with the realization that there was never a journey at all, only the awakening of what has always been awake. And from this realization flows the simplest, most profound truth of all. Everything is as it should be. Not because everything is perfect in form, but because everything serves the unfolding of consciousness. The mistakes, the losses, the joys, the silences, all are waves of the same ocean of awakening. You no longer divide life into good and bad, right and wrong, success and failure. You see only the play of opposites dancing toward unity. And in that vision, peace reigns. The awakened soul no longer asks for life to change. It thanks life for being exactly as it is. This gratitude opens the heart wider than any philosophy could. It allows you to meet the world with tenderness, to forgive instantly, to bless even those who misunderstand you. You realize that awakening is not the end of love. It is the beginning of infinite love. Love that includes everything and excludes nothing. And so, the circle completes itself. The seeker becomes still, and in that stillness, discovers they were never separate from the sought. The river returns to the ocean, not as a loss of identity, but as the fulfillment of its nature. You too return to presence, to peace, to your own luminous being. This is awakening, not an escape from life, but a profound re-entry into it, with eyes open, heart open, and soul free. If these words have guided your heart toward calm and remembrance, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Together, we will continue walking this path of Buddhist wisdom, where every step is awakening, every breath is gratitude, and every moment is the unfolding of your eternal truth.